Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of The Snake Pit. I'm your host, Son of Bat, and tonight I'll be talking about the 2006 horror film, The Lost. Directed by Chris Sivertson, produced by Lucky McKee, and based on a story by Jack Ketchum, the film stars Mark Center, Shay Astor, Alex Frost, and Michael Bowen, and it is distributed by Anchor Bay Entertainment. So this film is based on a novel by Jack Ketchum. For those of you who don't know, Jack Ketchum is a horror writer. A lot of people would consider his stuff splatterpunk, very extreme kind of graphic horror. And even if you don't know his books, you might know the movie The Girl Next Door, which is a pretty disturbing movie. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. Also based on a true story like this movie. However, The Lost kind of takes liberties with its story. This movie is kind of set in present day, which would be about when the movie was filmed in 2006, when in actuality the novel takes place in the 1960s. And that's because this story is based on real life serial killer Charles Schmid. I didn't know who Charles Schmid was before I, looked into this movie, and just doing a quick summary of who he is. He's a serial killer in the 1960s. He killed 3 girls, 2 counts first degree murder, 1 count second degree, and he was stabbed in prison. He's dead. And I mean, good riddance. But the guy, he was called the Pied Piper of Tucson because apparently he was really charismatic, and he developed a strong relationship with the teenage community in Tucson, Arizona. And he was really weird. The guy was really popular and shit with girls and stuff, but he was also described as a loner, and he did really weird shit. Like, he would crush beer cans, put them in his boots to make himself seem taller. And he kind of had like a Elvis / James Dean complex. Like, he wanted to be like the rebel without a cause. He applied makeup to like make a fake mole on his face, and he fucking put a clothespin on his like lip to like kind of stretch it to make it like Elvis Presley's. Like, the guy like was really weird, like really wanted to be a movie star, which, you kind of see in a couple of these serial killer mass murder cases. I mean, you look at Charles Starkweather, the guy wanted to be like James Dean to some degree, you know what I mean? So, he's one of those guys, and he killed 3 girls, and I think 2 of them were sisters. And because the guy had such a grasp on the teenage community, like the people that he was around were so terrified of him and what he might do, one of his murders they actually covered up. So, like, they totally just let him get away with it, either out of devotion or fear. I don't really know too much about this case, but in the movie it's the latter. But yeah, so this is based on a true story, like I said, just like Jack Ketchum's previous work, The Girl Next Door, which is a really fucked one. I hopefully will cover it at some point, but that's a hard movie. So the guy writes stuff that is very gut punching and very difficult, but this one I didn't feel that was that difficult. I'm not saying it wasn't disturbing. It definitely was. The idea of like, because I think in this movie he's not like 20 something 30, he's like 19. So in this movie he's like a teenage serial killer. And it's very interesting. So I'll give a brief rundown of the plot here just to keep it going in the loop. But I want to say I don't really want to spoil this movie. I'm personally a really big fan of true crime and serial killer movies, so like I'd feel like an asshole if I spoiled this. So if this sounds interesting and you want to check it out, pause this video right now, come back to it after you check it out. But I already gotta say, if you're into true crime stuff, check this one out. But so the movie is about a 19-year-old named Ray Pye, and the film opens up with him like walk into an outhouse, and this girl opens the door and she's completely naked, and she like giggles, and she's like, oh, I didn't know like there was people out here, because they're up in the mountains and stuff, or in the woods. So she like, runs along, and he stalks her. Like, right when the movie starts, this guy's stalking her, and he's staking out, and he's chilling, and he's just watching them, and he finds out there's another girl there, and they're just, like sunbathing, like naked on the beach. It cuts to night, and Ray is still there with his friend Tim and his girlfriend Jen, and he's making comments about how he basically wants to fuck them. But then, unbeknownst to him, like from our perspective, when we get a close-up on the 2 girls, they're talking about how one of them got like, I guess, fucked over by her boyfriend, and she's like, oh, how could he do that to me? And then the other girl is consoling her, and she like kisses her, to like make her feel better or whatever. And this sets Ray off. He like calls them like a couple lesbians, and he gets like really worked up and pissed about it. And then he comes to the conclusion that like he should just shoot them. And Tim kind of starts snickering because, what do you like say to that? I mean, like, just weird, right? And then the girl's just like the girl Jen is just like, like, why, like, what the fuck? And he's like, well, like, no one's gonna miss them, you know what I mean? They can't have kids, all this like sick shit. And then they kind of realize like he's serious, like this guy, like he has it, like, to be just to clarify, the guy who played Ray Pie, fucking Mark Center, this guy plays psychotic like very fucking well. Like, I'm pretty sure he's in Cabin Fever too, and he plays a psycho in that, and he fucking nails it. And he's in this other one called Red, White, and Blue, which is another great film. But anyway, Mark Center, fucking, he can hit the crazy switch from 0 to 100, and he kills it. But yeah, he fucking goes nuts. And then it cuts back to these two girls chilling, and then a bang gets heard, and some blood splats, and then followed by a couple more. And one of these girls gets shot right through the eye. She's still alive. The other one's trying to figure out what's going on. She gets shot to shit. And then Ray shows up, and he basically, like, he's just watching the one girl who's like kind of just blinking, but she's like clearly shot in the face, like, brain damaged and shit. And he instructs, like, he doesn't even ask, he straight up just tells Tim and Jen, he's like, you're gonna get in the Buick, you're gonna go get some fucking shovels, we're gonna come back here, we're gonna dig, and we're gonna bury these two, and then we're gonna take all the shit and get rid of it and clean it up. And he manipulates Jen, his girlfriend, like, really, like, this guy, the whole movie, anytime he's with this chick, he's just manipulating her. But like, you can really see how bad it is. Like, she immediately is like, no, I want to go home. And he just doesn't like he's like kind of aggro, but he's chill about it, if that makes sense. And he like talks her down to the point that her and Tim willingly just go and they do this. And while this is all going on, he's just chilling there eating chips and smoking cigarettes and shit, just staring at the two bodies. Comes to realize the girl he shot in the face wasn't so brain damaged, and she scurried off down the hill. Two people pick her up, and she gets away. And then it cuts to 4 years later. It's 4 years later, and Ray Pie is working at his mom's hotel. He basically got away with killing this one chick, and then at the 4-year mark, the second girl died from her injuries in hospital. That's when we're introduced to basically the other main characters of this movie, which would be the police. There's two of them. There's this one guy, he's like kind of balding, he's got a sick stash, he's a iron liver drinker, chaining darts for most of the movie. And he shows up, and you can tell he really gave a shit about this case. Like, he's really beaten up about it. Like, he's slamming back drinks, and he's like almost like choking back tears because this girl died. And then we meet his partner, Ed, this fucking Captain Picard looking piece of shit, bro. Like, this guy, I guess that, you see, that's the thing with Jack Ketchum's writing. He writes characters like that aren't like they're gray for the most part, you know what I mean? They're not like black and white, evil, good, whatever you want to call it. They're morally gray characters. But this one guy, I swear to God, bro, like, I just couldn't stand him. Like, I know he's supposed to be one of the people who's going to help later down the road in the movie, but he was such a fucking piece of shit. Anyway, this guy, this Picard-looking fuck, he's basically like some 60-year-old retired cop who's like nailing like a fucking 18-year-old or some shit. And is like the fucking pharmacist's daughter or some shit. I don't know, but this guy, they're both drinking, and you can tell the one cop, like the fucking balding guy with the stash, he really gives a shit, and he knows. Like, we've watched through the whole movie, he's the main cop we follow, and thank God for that. But he's the main cop we follow, and you can tell he knows Ray Pie did this, like shot these two girls 4 years ago. He just can't prove it. Like, the guns weren't found, like none of that shit. So he knows, but like, and he won't let the case go. Now, while all this is going on, pretty much for the rest of the movie, we get to see how Ray interacts with people and how he acts as a person. And there's some really crazy scenes in this movie when he's like completely about to fucking lose it, where the film grain kind of just changes and almost looks like a grindhouse, like 70s, 80s type movie. Shit gets really fast and hyper cut. And like, I mean, the cuts and the grain really match the deteriorated mental state of this kid and his fucking manic energy and shit. And again, I gotta fucking praise Mark Center. He hit it out of the park playing this psycho. Like, this guy again, like, and again, it's just like he's a little guy with he's a little man with big anger. And even the beginning of the movie, it starts with a title card that says, once upon a time there was a boy named Ray Pie who crushed beer cans and put them in his boots to make himself taller. And that off the bat gives you an idea of what this fucker is like. He's a short man with a big fucking temper, and he's just a manipulative piece of shit to his girlfriend and his best friend. Like, you get like, they're chilling one day waiting for him to show up, and like Tim's just like, oh, what are we gonna do? And like Ray's girlfriend's just like, it doesn't matter. No matter where we go, Ray fucking, it's gonna be his decision. And then Tim's kind of just there like, yeah, but like at least he asks us. And she's like, well, it doesn't fucking matter because we just go anywhere he wants to go. This time he shows up with a new girl named Catherine, much to Jen's dismay. And he's being Ray's being a prick. He's just like openly hitting on this chick and stuff, but basically what we get for the rest of this movie is kind of a cat and mouse with the main cop Charlie and Ray, where Ray's throwing parties in the hotel he works at, and it's fucked because, again, like in the real case with Charles Schmidt, this guy is definitely done high school, but he's chilling with high schoolers, which is like really weird and shit, like super fucking sus. Someone needed to get Chris Hansen to have a sit with this boy and talk with him. Maybe shit would have worked out, but I don't fucking know. Like, the kid's clearly a drug addict. There's scenes with him doing like cocaine, and like when he does the coke, like his normal persona kind of starts fading, and like the real him starts like showing up, you know? Like, I mean, there's a scene later in the movie where he's just slamming line after line after line and buying more and more fucking from like a half gram to an 8-ball and shit. And he's just like walking around just asking stupid questions. And this one like hard motherfucker who's literally been out of jail is just watching him the whole time. He's like, what the fuck's wrong with you? Why are you walking so weird? And then Ray's like, his facade kind of like falls in front of all the other teenagers and shit. And he's like, oh, yeah, like, I had a weed deal when I was, like, 12, and it went wrong, and these two mafia guys, like, shot me in my legs. That's why, like, I walk weird and shit. And you can tell this dude, like, who's been out of jail, it just looks like he's going to, like, if he says one more word, he's going to beat the shit out of him. Which is, like, again, it speaks about what Ray is like. Like, he immediately, like, kind of shuts down and shit, you know what I mean, around this dude. So, like, whenever dudes challenge him, he kind of shuts down. Except for like Tim, but whenever it's chicks, this guy fucking loses it, which is like crazy too, because he's like apparently he's like got like this small harem of chicks around him that are both either like most of them are like obsessed with him, like this one chick Dee Dee at like the drive up restaurant, like the Sonic kind of thing. But then you get like girls like Jennifer, and then later down the road the girl who was in the car that I mentioned earlier, Catherine, where they can just kind of see through his shit and they've had enough. Jen, though, you know, she's been with him for a while and she's been abused by him for a while, so she keeps going back and shit, but she's also having an affair with Tim. And like all this like teenage drama shit's going on. But what really sets it off is after Ray hooks up with Catherine, first he's fucking with her, and then she asks like, what's the worst thing you ever done? And then he makes up a lie that the worst thing he had ever done was him and Tim got really high and they trashed a house and they found a couple guns, shot some shit and left. And then he like confesses to her like the worst thing he actually did was he killed the two girls that we saw in the beginning of the movie. And then he basically acts like a one-hump chump with this chick, and then he falls in love with her. But she, like, the whole like movie from their second date onward, you can kind of tell she just doesn't like this guy, or she's like just using him for a fuck or some shit. But he's just so into her that he can't see it. And you know, there's an interesting part too that comes up during the what's the worst thing you've ever done part. And when he asks her something, she's like basically like, oh, it's a lie, she said. And she tells a story about how her mom is like a paranoid schizophrenic, and that's why she moved back to where they are. I don't know where they live, but it has to be somewhere near-ish to California or in California or something. I don't fucking know, but like close enough to San Francisco that the drive or flight isn't that long. Anyway, she basically says the mom was a paranoid schizophrenic and she went nuts, and then the daughter basically said they were going to leave. And when she's hooking up with our boy fucking Ray, she gets a phone call, and it's the dad saying the mom died. And then that's kind of the thing that kind of lets Catherine snap into reality. She tells Ray to fuck off. And while this is going on, he's like, you know, thinking his shit's normal, but like she doesn't call him. So he starts sketching out. And then the crazy really starts brewing to the surface. He calls her and she tries to break it off basically, and he fucking loses it. Like, he fucking loses it. So then he, like, you know, tries to go back to Jen, and she's had a fucking enough with him. Basically what's been going on with Jen is, like I said, she's been fucking Ray's best friend Tim, and Tim this whole time has been muling hash to Ray. but he's been shaving the fucking hash and keeping some from himself. Like, because Ray's friends, even though they're scared of him, they don't give a shit about him behind his back. Whenever they get the chance, they fuck off. They steal his drugs, or they, like, go behind his back. And rightfully so. The guy's a fucking monster. But, like, anyway, the thing that breaks, the straw that breaks the camel's back for Jen is Ray gives her a ring and says she's the only one. And then once the cop kind of, like, interviews everyone about him, because he really wants to nail Ray, he points out to her that the ring isn't a diamond, it's actually some cheap crystal that you could smash with a hammer. And you know he wants her to do it because he's about to, like, break her, like, and if he can break her, he gets closer to, like, and if he can break her and Tim, he can get closer to Ray and arrest him, right? So she, when he leaves, breaks the ring and finds out that Ray was using her and was full of shit. She goes back, confronts him, and blows him off. So he loses his two, like, fucking girlfriends, and he, like, goes insane. He almost cracks her in the face, but his mom stops him. And then what proceeds to happen is Ray takes out, like, the fucking mirror in the hotel. And that's where he's been hiding the .22 rifle and the .38 this whole time. And he takes it in a box of ammo, and he goes on a straight up fucking killing spree. Like, this whole movie, it's like all the violence is in the beginning and the very end. The middle is pretty much character development and dialogue, and a bullshit plot about a fucking stupid little girl and a perverted old man. And basically, yeah, once Ray loads up, he fucking goes apeshit. He shoots his fucking mom point blank, and he's like aiming it at her, and then he just blaps her, and then he fucking runs out, gets into his car. He drives up to the fucking drive-in, and he goes up to the Volkswagen, and he just shoots the girl in the face that's in there in broad daylight in front of, like, everyone. Dee Dee, the waitress, is watching. Like, everyone in their cars are like, just like, what the fuck's going on? And then he grabs this girl Sally, who's the stupid little girl hooking up with the perverted old man, and because she rejected him earlier, and he fucking kidnaps her. He throws her in the trunk of the car. Then he drives over to Jen's house, kicks in the door, shoots Jen's parents, and then he kidnaps Jen. I mean, again, praising Mark Senner's performance. He just opens the trunk of the car, and he's like, get in the trunk. And then he's like, shit, I forgot. This is Sally. Sally, this is Jen. Jen, Sally. Now get in the fucking trunk. You don't want me to fucking kill your ass in front of the neighbors, do you? And it's just like, his performance is way better. I did a shit impression, but his performance was fucking unhinged. Like, it was like shocking, but also funny at times, because he was just, you could tell he was just chewing the scenery and just, like, dug the role, right? Anyway, he gets him in the trunk, and then he goes and he kidnaps Catherine, and she kind of knew he was going to come back, because ever since the confession, she knew he was a dangerous fucker. She kidnaps her, shoots her father, so she lost both of her parents in the course of, like, a day or however long. And he takes her in the car, and he drives her out to the spot where he killed the two girls earlier. And then they walk up the hill to the house that was shot up earlier, because he needs a place that's private to kill all three of these chicks. And once he gets in there, there's a couple that were basically getting ready to move out of the house. So this whole thing turns into a home invasion. He's got 3 girls, a pregnant woman, and her husband, just all at gunpoint. And he's fucking, like, losing it. Like, his grasp on the situation is, like, just slipping every second. And he makes a comment that the pregnant woman is like Sharon Tate. So you know shit's going to get crazy from that point out. And I don't know what his whole end goal was. Like, if he was going to, like, try to Richard Speck them or some shit like that. You can look up what that is. I don't really want to go into detail. But, yeah, I don't know if he was going to pull a Richard Speck, or if he was going to, like, or what the fuck he was planning on doing. But he ends up shooting the husband in the back of the head, and then shooting fucking Catherine. Jen's fucking crying all over herself, just freaking out. And then he goes up to the pregnant girl, and he starts to cut open her stomach to, I guess, take the baby out. And he keeps making, like, Sharon Tate comments. And while this is going on, Sally sneaks up behind him with, like, this piece of broken, like, porcelain or something. And she stabs Ray, or scratches him really bad in the fucking face. And then he gets up and he, like, charges her, and he, like, tries to make her strip down and shit. And he's like, show me your snatch, show me your tits, and it was just, like, really fucking off the wall. And then the cops bust in, because while this was all going on, Tim has been caught, and he's confessed to everything that's been going on up until that point with Ray. And it's this great this fucking interview scene where they're interrogating him, and he basically, I thought it was fucking hilarious, at least anyway. This kid's like, saying the plausible places Ray would be, and they're like, he's like, he could be at this drug dealer's house, but like, I don't know, with the guns and the girls and stuff, I don't think the drug dealer would want him there. And then like the guy's like, oh well, call your fucking parents and get the addresses for these fucking dealers, and we're gonna go look. And then right as he's about to fucking flip on his dealers, little stoner boy just stops, and he's like, wait a minute, man, I think I know where he could be. And then right at the second he's about to like have his way with this Sally chick, the perverted old fucking Picard busts in. Ray fucking starts a shooting. He caps Sally. He's about to shoot Catherine, who's fucking, still alive, but barely. I don't even know. You don't even know if she dies or not. But then, like, chaos ensues, and then he gets into a shootout with Detective Charlie, and he gets shot in the leg, and then Charlie jumps on him, beats the living shit out of Ray, like his half mauled up fucking face. Everyone in the house is screaming, and then it cuts to black. And that was Jack Ketchum's The Lost. Yeah, so this was a great movie. This was one that I actually had never heard of. I was watching a video too, a shelf by shelf video, I should say. Sorry, fuck, everyone's catching up to me today, boys. But I was watching a shelf by shelf video done by Mood616. Shout out to him. He was talking about his DVDs, and I think it was Under the L's, and then he brings up The Lost. This is a cover I had seen around a few times. I think I'd seen it in HMV and a couple of stores back in the day. But again, I didn't know what the fuck it was. You know what I mean? Like, I should have known better. I should have known by seeing Jack Ketchum's name on it. Like, it was going to be fucking wild. Because I'd seen The Girl Next Door when I was younger, and I thought, like, at a point, that was one of the most fucked up things I had ever seen. But yeah, again, it's one of those cases like The Boys Next Door in the last episode where I could have gotten this, but I didn't because I was an idiot. But yeah, I watched the video, and Moods gave a little blurb about like what the movie was like, kind of like. Basically said it was a serial killer movie, so I instantly checked it out and was like, oh shit, I gotta check this. Came in the mail a few days ago. Just checked it out after I burned a couple, and yeah, no, it was wild. The only criticism I think I would really have would be, again, it's crazy because I praised him 3 other times. Mark Senner's performance was amazing. He really sold the fucking on-the-edge psychopath that Ray Pye was. And the fact that he could go from completely charismatic and having everyone fooled to just absolutely batshit fucking crazy was amazing. He was really just, he controlled this movie. Like, he was the focal point. Like, every scene that didn't have him wasn't that good. Not like that the other actors didn't put in, like, they're all and that they sucked or anything, but like, this guy, like, I wanted to see more of what the fuck was going on in this guy's head. Who the fuck was this guy? Why was he like this? And for something that's just under 2 hours, it told a lot, but I feel like there was still so much more you could go, or so much more in depth you could have gone. But fuck, that's what the novel's for, right? But again, my only criticism is toward the ending when his face gets cut up really bad and he's kind of like rocking the Two-Face persona thing. He went a little too over the top. It was kind of like the ending of The Devil's Advocate with Keanu Reeves and Al Pacino. That's one where Al Pacino fucking eats up the scenery in the movie. He's like one of the best parts of the entire movie, except in the last 10 fucking minutes. And what I mean by that is the whole movie, he plays the devil so subtly, so charismatically. He's still dangerous. You can tell there's that danger. But in the last 10 minutes, when they're in like that fucking penthouse thing in the top of the office building, he completely goes ape shit crazy. And it just became really hammy, almost like a cartoon, you know what I mean? And it kind of like derails the rest of the performance. Now, where it's different here is Mark Center was playing a fucking unhinged psychopath the whole movie. Like, you from the get-go got the impression that this guy doesn't have it all together and he's a fucking loose cannon, right? Which makes sense. So I know you're thinking, why was the ending so crazy? Well, the guy got half his fucking face cut off and he jumped up and he was like still able to like have his shit together enough to like stop the 2 girls, and he was like screaming about how like he's like, what, this fucking hurts, you know what I mean, like this fucking hurts. And I thought it was just like a little much. I haven't read the book. Jack Ketchum, again, is one of my favorite authors. 2 books I have read by him were Off Season and The Girl Next Door, but I haven't read The Lost. And from what I've read, the novel is slightly different in the sense that it takes place in the 60s, just like the Charles Schmid case. But I don't know, man. Like, that ending was kind of weird. It didn't ruin the movie or anything, but it was definitely a little off. And this is a disturbing movie, I guess you would say, but it wasn't a very particularly gory movie. Which again, it was bloody as all fuck. Like, it was really bloody, but like I said, all the violence happened in the very beginning and more so towards the end. But holy shit, when there was gore, it was fucking insane. Like, when the husband guy gets shot in the back of his head literally fucking split open, and his girlfriend or wife or whatever is trying to like put his fucking head back together with her hands, and it was just so fucking brutal. Like, the gore when it did show was intense as fuck. Like, the performances were fucking crazy. But yeah, I guess my only criticisms were like how crazy cartoonish fucking Ray Pie got at the end of the movie. That one fucking pervert fucking Picard looking cop, because I did not like the guy. Like, I kind of wanted him to get shot, and I kind of just wanted the other cop to be the one to deal with it. But yeah, fucking The Lost by Jack Ketchum, fucking definitely highly recommended. If I were to rate this movie on a scale from fucking like 1 to 10, I'd probably give it about a 9.5. 9.5 just for the criticisms that I listed before, but other than that, it was a really fucking good serial killer movie. If you guys like movies that are based on loosely based on true events, this one's kind of like that British movie Tony from, I think, 2011. Tony was the one that was based on Dennis Nielsen. It's the same kind of idea where like a lot of the skeleton of the case is pretty much there, but they take creative liberties with it to make it more of like a movie. And just another praise on Jack Ketchum. Like, he unfortunately is no longer with us, and he passed along a few years ago. But the guy made some really fucking crazy stories. Like, I think his strong suit, like, Off Season was fucking amazing, but I think the guy's real talent was the 1950s/1960s suburbia, like the hell suburbia shit. Like, because it's a time period where a lot of people have this misconception that it was super innocent and like colorful and happy, when in actuality it was like a really fucked up dark time. It's the time when pretty much like the 60s is arguably when the innocence disappeared, and this movie made references. Like, it was weird at points. Like, it felt like it was supposed to take place in the 60s, but the cars and certain things that people had just definitely made me see that it took place in the present, like 2006 when it came out. So like, that kind of fucked with me a little bit too. Like, I couldn't tell, like I could tell where it was, but it kept changing. Like, it felt timeless in a way because of that, but it was weird. But yeah, Jack Ketchum, he has like a really, really good talent for writing these like suburban hell stories. Like, The Girl Next Door is another one that is just definitely more disturbing than The Lost. Like, The Lost was fucked up, but like, that was people getting shot. Like, The Girl Next Door is just straight up abuse and torture. Like, another really dark story. The guy fucking wrote horror stories really well. To some it was splatterpunked, to some it was just offensive, just too extreme. But you know, like, he wrote good stories, and like I said, the middle of this movie is a lot of it is character development and dialogue, and it was fucking good. Like, I liked it. I fucking really did like this movie. I give it a 9.5. High recommend to anyone out there who's into true crime or serial killer movies. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment if you know any other movies based on Jack Ketchum's work, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one. Peace.